Today I'm going to take a look at this Macintosh IIsi. This Mac is somewhat unique. I mean, it's the only Mac that came in this particular form factor. I think it's the only 20 megahertz machine. I can't remember if that's true or not. It might be the only 20 megahertz one. It's the only 20 megahertz 68030 chip, I think. There might be an 020 that ran at 20. I can't remember. Around back, we've got a specialized slot. There's actually a processor direct slot down here, and there's you put in a riser card, and I think you either get new bus or no. I think it's limited to just PDS. You only get a processor direct slot. Power in and out, which is rare. These days, this would go to your monitor, and you would this would switch on your monitor at the same time, which was a nice feature back in the day. Sound in and out. 2 serial ports, SCSI port, video port, floppy disk port, and a single ADB port. There's also a locking tab. You can put in a metal locking thing that you can run a cable through and bolt it to the case or to your table. And if I get a screwdriver, the power switch on the back has a odd feature where you can push it in and rotate it, and it will lock the power switch in. Now, on modern computers, this is done with BIOS setting, but this was to tell the system to automatically power on when the power came up. You wouldn't actually have to hit the power button. Boy, this thing's dusty. So when this is jammed in, it's basically always hitting on, and that's kind of a neat feature at the time. This system only has one ADB port. Normally they come with 2. The SI was more of a low-cost system. They did cut back on a couple things. I mean, one, the clock speed for one, since things such as the IIsi were at 25 megahertz. And another little thing is the PDS slot, the adapter. Most of them came with a socket for floating point unit, so you could actually get a math coprocessor casing where it devolves into this horrible color. You can see they obviously kept their monitor on this part, and I believe this is from the flame retardant that's in it. It's like bromide or something like that. I think you can get it back. You have to like give it a bath in, like, I don't know, like baking soda or something, but I don't care about it that much. I actually bought this system off eBay because I have an Apple Tech Step, which will make an appearance in another video. And the Apple Tech Step is a diagnostic tool used by service departments, and it basically plugs into every single port and can diagnose the machine, the motherboard, and all of its systems. It uses cartridges. And I didn't have any of the Macs that are on the cartridges. I used to have many Macs. I had 55 different models at one point. But when we moved to New York, I got rid of most of my stuff. So unfortunately, when I was getting rid of this stuff, I didn't pay consideration to the fact that I need a certain computer to work with the Tech Step. So I had to go and buy a IIsi. This was like 30 or 40 bucks, which is kind of outrageous. Most people sell them for like hundreds, which is just stupid. So this machine is very easy to open. It just has these little pop tabs, and they're actually nice enough to put a little ledge here so you can pop it open. So you get somewhere to grip on the bottom half, and you can pry it apart. The top half of the case is just a metallized plastic for shielding. Alright, with the top off, we can see the overall system. We've got the motherboard down here, single fan, a 40 megabyte hard drive, not gig, megabyte, floppy drive. I believe this is high density, and a Sony power supply. The hard drive is made by Connor. Connor, I believe, was bought out by Quantum, which was in turn bought out by Seagate or Western Digital, I can't remember. Keep in mind there's only like 2 or 3 hard drive companies left, so pretty much every old drive company that you don't recognize has been bought by another one, and now they're just down to the 2 or 3. With the hard drive out, I can take off this little adapter cable. The power supply just feeds into the motherboard, and then the motherboard actually supplies power to the hard drive. And the SCSI cable, because all old Macs use SCSI instead of IDE or, you know, parallel ATA. And down here we've got a speaker, and there's actually an interesting arrangement down here where it's a bunch of metal contacts touching the board, and 2 of those go to the speaker, which is clamped in, and then 2 of them break off and go up to this just an LED for the power light, which is actually just jammed into an adapter. Oh, it's actually a bicolor one. I can't remember if I've ever seen this thing change color or not. Oh, maybe, you know what? I think it blinks during hard drive access. It switches color during hard drive access. Oh, no, wait. Wait a minute, it can't do that. There's only 2 cables going to it. Why the hell are they using a bicolor LED then? That's weird. I guess they intended to have a hard drive light on it. Maybe there's, when we open it up, oh, there's actually a connector here. I wonder if I hook that up, if it will do anything. Maybe I'll try that later. Ugh. This floppy drive is not clean. It's a Sony model. Apple pretty much used Sony for their whole floppy drive lineup for a long time. Just some rather large surface mount components and the standard Apple floppy connector, a ribbon cable. It also supplies power. Okay, and now for the, I'm not sure how to get the fan out. Maybe it just, I think it's locked in. Anyway, get the power supply out first. Most things in this, like the hard drive, floppy drive, they're all actually just clipped in. So you can actually just pull the clip back and disconnect it. I think this one doesn't need anything fancy. Might be clip. Yeah, I think this is holding it. Took a little bit of yanking, but I did get the power supply out, and I figured out how this fan works. You actually squeeze the bottom, and it releases it. So you just get a whole module. This one's made by Pico. No, this is a Pico Ace. Oh, it's Sanyo Denki. That's who makes it. And it's this nice little, you know, contacts at the bottom module that just snips onto the case, and then contacts these little pads at the bottom. That. Alright, got everything out. You can see how the whole bottom of the case is metallized as well as the little speaker, and you can still see the little contact clips. Here's the power supply. It's a Sony APS-06, made in Singapore. Not too much, it's just a 12 volt rail, a negative 12 volt rail, a 5 volt rail, and that's it. It pulls 4.2 amps max. I think it's just the one screw on the top, so I think we can get this. Maybe you have to take these out. Let's see if this pops open. Oh, well, that was easy. There we go. It's a little dusty in there. Oh, there's a relay for the soft power. And there's the relay. Some old chokes and stuff like that. Not too bad. Caps look good. Yeah, not too interesting. Just power. Oh, this digital board is all like bent over, but it's actually hard to bend back, so I think it's actually supposed to be like that. I can't really see. Oh, they're Hitachi capacitors. Don't see those too often. There's some filtering and stuff. This is the funky non-standard connector that plugs into the motherboard. It's actually quite simple. Like I said, the power supply is only making a positive and negative 12 volt rail and a 5 volt rail. So it doesn't actually need that much. Plus it's low current, relatively speaking, so you don't need to split it amongst a lot of connectors. Alright, going to do a quick overview of the motherboard. Over here we've got the Motorola 68030 running at 20 megahertz. Supposedly these overclock well to 25 megahertz with a simple oscillator replacement. And we've got the power input from the power supply, which just sits on top. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera. We've got a couple VLSI chips, which are basically the north and south bridge of the time. The fan connector is actually part of the board. It's just they left the solder resist off. And we've got onboard memory. I think it's got 1 meg. This is also shared with the video buffer. Various analog bits and pieces. You can actually see it says Sony sound chips. One cool thing about older Apple motherboards is that they do actually label pretty much everything on them. Over here we got the floppy drive connector, SCSI connector, 4 30-pin SIM slots. I believe these are all 1 meg because I think this thing has 5 megs installed. Yep. Just 4 little DRAM chips. 1993. Doesn't say who made these. There is actually Apple branded memory out there. I do actually have some. Maybe I'll do like a really short video on it. But it is actually completely Apple branded. I assume they're not making it, but you know, it's kind of weird to see their Apple branding on stuff, on memory. Especially on new machines. They just buy whatever memory they can get. We've got an Israeli made 3 volt, or is this 3.6? I can't remember if these are 3.6 volt lithium battery for the battery backup. Some canned oscillators ranging from 60 megahertz down to 20. Got the processor direct slot. These are like literally just a direct interface to the CPU pins on most systems. I believe on things such as the LC475, it uses an older processor direct slot, yet it's an 040 chip. So I think they do have some kind of glue logic in there linking them. I don't think they can directly run those cards off the newer chips, because the processor direct slot was always just like straight pins from the chip. Like it really didn't have, it wasn't really a bus or anything like that. It didn't do anything other than link right to the chip, so you could install processor upgrades and stuff. This one supports video, and they made Ethernet and all sorts of stuff. So we've got SCSI controller made by AMD. BT made, this is probably the DAC, the video DAC. The super integrated WAS machine. This is a chip that has an entire floppy controller on one chip, which was pretty impressive at the time. The ADB port. Now there's some fuses here. These are probably for the ADB port, because ADB was one of those buses that was completely not hot swappable. It was actually very easy to fry the board, or at least the ADB controller on the board, and there's no way to get around that. Like if you fry the ADB controller, they usually wouldn't repair the board. They'd make you buy a whole new board. So there's even some protection diodes on it too. Older Macs couldn't handle it. You could unplug and plug in, it would just fry it. This one's obviously got some protection built in. There's also some fuses and stuff on like the SCSI port and things like that, which is a nice addition. It's actually a very nicely laid out board. I mean, I like the grid system. You can see it's lettered on this side and numbered at the top, so you can say like 6D to get to here. So for servicing, it makes it very easy to service. On the back, just a couple resistor packs. Nothing too interesting. Oh well, never mind. There's a ton of passives on it, all at the top, and it's another resistor pack. Yeah, and here are the contacts for the speaker and the LED. And not much else. Copyright 1990. The last thing on this board is this 512 kilobyte ROM sim. Many old Macs used sims, but they did eventually start using onboard ROMs. Here you can see there's actually provision for 4 megabit ROMs. So they did eventually get, and I think that's what this jumper controls. I think it says FDB. I'm not sure what that's for, but I think that might tell it that the ROMs are on the motherboard instead of in the actual socket. But yep, other than that, not much on the board. I mean, yeah, it's heavily packed, but it's just, basic computer, nothing too fancy about it. Before I go on, the DB15 connector that's used for Apple Video on older systems, it's actually really just a VGA signal. So you can actually just get a passive adapter like this, and we'll just switch it over to VGA. There are more complicated ones that have dip switches to manually set resolution. I think this might be fixed at 640 by 480. But yeah, you can just get a really cheap adapter on eBay and it will just convert it to a regular VGA signal. Alright, for this LED mod, all I did was take one of these DuPont style connectors. I ripped off the plastic of one and just jammed it into the socket over the pin. So I'm just going to put that back, grab this wire, and I think I'll just solder it on. So let's get, where are my side cutters? Couldn't find my side cutters. Oh, so all I did was strip off a little bit of it. I'm just going to solder it on. These are actually little crimp clips, but whatever. See if I can just get this to wet a bit. Yep. And let me tin the end of this if it will hold still. I don't have my grabber arms. That works. Alright, that's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to route this down here, like the other one. There. Oh, I'm going to put it back together and see if this thing blinks in two different colors. Let's see if it does anything. Okay, so we got the green light. These aren't very bright LEDs, by the way. Or this LED isn't very bright. And will it blink another color? Hey, it does. Alright, so that is an easy way to make a bicolor or mod your 2SI to show hard drive activity. I'd just like to point out that it is actually a lot more noticeable in real life. It's just not picking up the amber quite as well on the camera. Just on my angle I can see it a lot more clearly. This LED is very dim, but it does work. One thing is this Mac VGA adapter thing, it's not working out with my VGA capture module. I was going to record some of the video and it just does not see it. It just keeps telling me there's no video signal. If I can dig out the adapter I've got with the dip switches, I think I can get it to work, but yeah, it doesn't want to work with this thing. Oh well. Stay tuned for my video on my Apple Tech Step. One day, if I ever get around to shooting it.